Welcome everybody. Good morning. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the keynote this morning. Tina Nobartel always does an awesome job, and so we're very lucky to have her here in our region. We are excited for our first breakout this morning. Jennifer and Anel will be sharing with us about the opportunity adult school articulation. So just a few, I guess, housekeeping things to share before we turn the time over to them. If you have comments or questions, please place those in the chat found within the Whova platform, not within the Zoom meeting. I will go ahead and manage those for Jennifer and Anel. And so please, any comments, Q&A, anything that you'd like to enter into the system, please do it on the Whova app, not in Zoom here. So with that, we will go ahead and turn the time over to Jennifer and Anel to introduce themselves and get us started. Oh, and you're muted, Jennifer.
Oh, I just had so much to say already. Well, I'm glad we have a nice small group. So I think, it's a pretty specific topic that the regional consortium has asked Anel and I to cover. And we'll start by kind of introducing ourselves and then maybe ask that you guys all do the same so we kind of know who's in the audience and we can, tailor the presentation to maybe what you guys are interested in beyond kind of the basics that we're going to share. So my name is Jennifer Lewis, and I serve as the Dean for Continuing Education and Workforce Development at Southwestern College, which is a very unique role in that I get to have the opportunity to manage our CAEP program, which is part of my non-credit role. But in addition, really thinking about articulation for career education programs has always resided in my office. But as we combined the CAEP project and our program and its objectives, it fit very nicely with articulation. We had always just done articulation with our high schools. At Southwestern, we've done it for years. Sweetwater is an amazing partner. Coronado is part of our service area. And for, I'd say 20 plus years, we've had very dynamic articulation agreements. But with CAEP coming on board and with Anel being with Sweetwater Adults, we had this wonderful opportunity to explore and implement, which we're going to talk about today, articulations with adult schools. So just a little bit about the project and about what we're going to talk about today and introducing myself. But Anel, I'd like you to introduce yourself too.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Anel Martinez. I am the CT resource teacher for Sweetwater Adult School. We have 4 different sites, so we have articulations at 4 different sites with Southwestern College, and you'll be hearing about the array of courses that we offer and the articulation process. So pleasure to be with you this morning.
Great. And I'm hoping we have kind of a small audience here. So if I call on you, hopefully you can unmute yourself and let us know your name and your role in your institution and maybe what you're hoping to learn today. Let's go ahead and start. I'm going to start on my screen with Nikki.
Hi, I'm Nikki Middleton. I'm the Business Engagement Coordinator for East Region Adult Ed, the consortium of Grossmont Cuyamaca and Grossmont Adult Education and Mountain Empire.
Fantastic. Thanks, Nikki, for joining us. Gabriella? Are you there? Maybe she's left for a moment. How about Nellie?
Good morning. My name is Nellie Doherty. I am a counselor at San Diego Mesa College. And my interest today is because I'm on the Pathways Committee here with Continuing Ed and San Diego Mesa. So interested to see what you guys are doing.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome. Hector.
Good morning. This is Hector Miranda. I'm a counselor at National City Adult School. And I'm relatively new to the adult school, so my hope is to just become more aware of how this articulation works.
Great. Thank you, Hector, for joining us. Aaron? Oh, Aaron's mic isn't working. Okay. Aaron, would you put in the chat And maybe Kevin can share with us, and maybe it's the same for Gabriella.
Yeah, and it is the same for Gabriella. So
Okay.
I just messaged Gabriella in Huva.
Okay.
And so the same for you, Nelly, if you want to, if your guys' mics aren't working, if you want to intro yourself in Huva, and I can let people know who's here. So Gabriella says that she's a program specialist at Cuyamaca College for the HSI STEM grant program.
Great. All right. And Aaron's gonna chat us and let us know. Cloris?
No mic for Cloris either.
Okay. How about Christine Ho? I see you're unmuted. No, she may need to chat too. That's okay. George?
So George just said he has no microphone today, but George is the Cuyamaca College Career Education Program Coordinator. And as we would all agree, he put an all-around nice guy.
Yeah, he is. I would have to agree, George.
Aaron just posted that Aaron is the TRIO EOC counselor and who works with Montgomery Adult School, Palomar High School in the Sweetwater District.
Great. We've got some good Sweetwater folks. Awesome. And then we have Mahina. Maybe no mic there too. All right.
Yeah, it's weird. It looks like we tested with the one person who could use their mic. So, it's okay. Christine says that she was having some problems. Her mic is acting weird, but she's a counselor at Grossmont College.
Okay. Well, we've got some good East County representation, East and South, a little bit of Mesa. Okay. Well, this is helpful. Kevin, if anybody else adds to the chat, just let us know. It's really nice to have a small enough group to be able to know kind of who's with us. And this really is a conversation more than a presentation. I will say that we are learning as we are going through this process. It definitely was new for us. Probably a couple of years ago, and now we kind of started down the road and decided that it was one of our CAEP objectives and put it in our plan and are being very, very intentional about making it work. That does not mean it's perfect. And I'm hoping today that maybe even some folks in the audience may be able to contribute things that are working in their organizations. They may be brand new to this. They may be very experienced in articulation. But please contribute, use the chat. We're hoping, Anel and I, as we planned for this, we're hoping that it would be very interactive and that all of us would learn something new and be able to take something back to our organizations that we could maybe start to share or start to utilize. We will be providing some tools that we developed kind of on our journey that we are more than happy to share. There is no reason for you guys, whether you're at Mesa or at Cuyamaca or Grossmont, to recreate something if you're starting this work or if you're kind of in the middle of trying to figure it out. So, and then we are always available. Both Anel and I are available to help, whether you are with an adult school or whether you are with a community college, to share at least what we've learned. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen here. And I will drive. I think Anel and I are going to just kind of do this together. I'll lead the first kind of few slides, which are very kind of informational and generic to get us all on the same page. But Anel, please, and anybody else in the audience, if you have anything to contribute or any questions, please do so along the way. So just once again, this is a South Bay collaborative effort. Southwestern College and Sweetwater Adult School are partners, and we have been. And this is one of many areas that we are working on together. For those of you who don't know much about the South Bay and the institutions that serve South Bay, Southwestern College is the only community college in southern San Diego County. And with that, we have a a very large partner in Sweetwater High School District, which the adult school is part of. And we are lucky, and the adult school has 4 sites. And now, how many students do you serve in Sweetwater Adult?
Oh, well, we serve an array of, I think, of 1,500 students approximately. Our numbers have decreased a lot because due to the pandemic and are returning back to the semester, right?
Yeah.
But we know that we've reached up to 4,500 students at a time.
I was going to say, when I think of Sweetwater Adult, I think more of that 5,000 student number. So big numbers. And I think you'll be back. You know,
Yes, we
I
will.
think, yeah, the pandemic has affected all of us in reducing our enrollment, but we're using this time to be able to be strategic and to build for the future. So our 2 organizations together, like I said, started about 2 years ago. And just to kind of give everybody a visual of the San Diego region and the service area, this is probably familiar to most of you. But you can see down here that we have Southwestern's service area, right? And in this service area is 1 community college, Southwestern College, 4 adult school sites. And we also partner with 2 high school districts, being Sweetwater the largest, and then also Coronado. And then, as you can see, and each one of you belong to one of these regions, whether you're part of an adult school or part of a community college, density is very different in these regions, right? You see Palomar is huge, but it's not nearly as dense as the service area for the San Diego Community College District. So many people have never seen this map, but it's something that we utilize on a regular basis, and especially with articulations, because colleges do not articulate typically with partners outside of their service area. So if an adult school or a high school called Southwestern from Imperial Valley or from Escondido, and they wanted to articulate some classes, that's not how we work, right? We partner only with those educational providers in our service area. There are some really unique exceptions to that, but we really, as colleges, stick to our service area and the K-12 and adult schools within those areas. So hopefully that visual kind of helps to show the Southwestern and Sweetwater service area, which really goes to the border, includes Coronado, goes up to kind of Bonita National City, and then we head over on the east side. Oh, that's probably like 125 area there, I would say.
Yes.
Okay. And then now that we kind of are thinking about your service area and your potential partners or your current partners, just to get us all on the same page with regards to what is articulation. It is, at least in our district and with our partners, we focus on career education only with regards to articulation. We do not do anything that is not coded career education. And it's a process of having instructors at the adult school or the high school and faculty at the community college come together when they think their courses are similar or the same, right? And when if we do get that okie dokie, right, from the faculty at Southwestern, then we can provide college credit for that class when it's completed in the adult school or in the high school. And it's a process that we go through. We're going to talk about it a little bit more. And then there is a formal articulation agreement that the college issues typically that are by course and by school. So our articulation agreements, we could have for a medical assisting course. We could have a medical assisting course, one at Montgomery Adult School, right? And one at San Ysidro, and I have 2 agreements because they may be being taught differently at those different sites. They may have different course outlines or lesson plans. And so we have to articulate course by course and site by site. And that's why it is a faculty to instructor decision whether we can or cannot articulate college credit. It's ultimately the faculty at Southwestern's decision. But I'll say we have this incredible group of faculty that don't say yes or no. What they say is maybe not yet, if it's not a direct match, right? And then I will have to say that our partners, whether they're in the high school or in the adult school, those instructors have done incredible work to make sure that they maybe add a little something to those courses to make sure that they can articulate so that their students do receive that college credit and don't have to retake that class once they come to Southwestern.
Yes.
I think, oh, go ahead, Anel.
Yes, and I can provide an example of a case like that. Years ago, I was teaching child development, and we were seeking an articulation for child development. And when we met with the dean, the courses that we presented were out of sequence there was one prerequisite, and then there was a recommendation. I think we were trying to do an observation course. And so the dean at that time said, why don't you we would feel more comfortable with you providing child, family, and community. So the staff at Southwestern College also tries to see the alignment of that pathway and how we can better serve our students at our end to be more successful as they go on to higher education, such as Southwestern College, to make sure that we're actually meeting those competencies in theory so that they can be successful. So staff at Southwestern College really takes a deep look and make those recommendations. And then we were able to move forward with 2 courses articulated for child development.
That's great. And another instance that comes to mind, Anel, is the work that we did with a culinary program. And we were almost there. And the culinary instructor said, here's what I do. And the faculty member said, oh my gosh, I think I can award like 6 units of credit, with the exception of there wasn't any use of knives. And so what ended up happening was the partner instructor said, you know what, I'll add it. And what do you recommend, Southwestern College faculty, for me to be able to make sure that my students are prepared, because we're going to give them credit, but we have to be very careful, because what that does is it means that they will be successful and have the prerequisite skills in their next course. The very last thing we want to do is put an articulation stamp on it. The students get the credit, right? And then they come to Southwestern and they take the next course in the sequence and they're not prepared. So it is a big responsibility to make sure that that coursework is aligned and does prepare students for their certificate or degree if they choose to come to Southwestern. And I want to pause and see, is there anything in the chat or any questions anybody have about what we've shared so far?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat right now, Jennifer.
Okay. All right. Just sometimes it's a lot of information all at once. And so maybe questions will bubble up as we continue. Anel and I also wanted to share that really the ultimate indicator is credit by exam. That as part of this evaluation of course content that happens between either the adult school or the high school instructor and the faculty member at Southwestern College, is they have to agree on an assessment. And that grade on that assessment, very typically it's a final exam, but sometimes it's a portfolio, right? It can be an assessment that's chosen by that team together. That the grade that they get, and say it's a final exam, just to make it easy. What they get, the grade that they get on that final exam is the articulated grade that they will receive on their college transcript. We do not at Southwestern, and it is different at different colleges, but at Southwestern, we don't articulate credit unless they get a B or better, because we know it affects their GPA moving forward and potentially their financial aid. So we have a board policy that, if a student completes course with a C, they're not going to receive articulated credit. They probably need to retake it. And we just do not want that impact on their transcript moving forward. And the process does vary college by college. So those of you who are working with partners, you probably have a board policy about articulation, high school articulation. We just included the adult school. We revised our board policies and processes to include the adult school in that. And I will say that we are in process of doing this right now. We have always provided pass, no pass. And it was based on grades that were received in the course, not on an exam. So we are in transition of identifying these exams or these portfolios that the students will receive their articulated credit and their grade, transcripted grade from. And then we also wanted to share just a little bit about the process, right? And how do you do this? And it really starts with an agreement development. We've talked about this a little bit, right? And we're going to share a tool in a little bit that helps to manage all of this, a couple of tools actually. But typically the partner, whether it's a high school or adult school partner, requests an agreement. They say, I have this course. They raise their hand. It's really initiated by the adult school or high school partner, at least in South County. We exchange curriculum, and curriculum includes course outline of record in addition to syllabi and lesson plans, right? We're sharing so that the Southwestern College faculty can see the lesson plan and the outline of what's currently being taught. And then the adult school or high school instructor can see what Southwestern's course outline of record is for that potential. It's very typically a capstone course in the adult school or high school and an entry-level course at Southwestern. That's kind of the sweet spot that we look for. Sometimes it'll seep into a little above or a little bit below, but that's typically at least where we start those conversations and that review process. We have to agree upon that exam. Is it a portfolio? Is it a final exam? What is it? And then the college faculty does have the final approval. And says yes or no. And like Anel shared earlier, sometimes it's a work. Sometimes it takes a couple of months, right? The college is not going to be changing their course outline of record, but there is, it's amazing how flexible and responsive the high schools and the adult schools can be compared to the community colleges. We have a pretty rigid curriculum process. But we've had wonderful experiences on multiple occasions where our high school and adult school partners have worked with faculty to make sure that they're adjusting their curriculum to be able to receive articulated credit. So that's really about the agreement development part of this. Once we have an agreement and we say, yes, we have an articulated class, we have to sign that agreement. Right. And for us, it goes through quite a signature process because historically, this information was kind of hidden. Nobody knew about it. The deans didn't know what classes were articulated. The high schools didn't always know what classes were articulated. So now we have signatures. We do electronic signatures on this articulation agreement. Where on the adult school side, the instructor signs off, an administrator signs off. It comes over to the community college, it's all done electronically now. Comes over to the community college for our faculty to sign off on, for the chair of the department to sign off on, for the dean to sign off on, I sign off on it, and our VP of academic affairs signs off on it. So there's no way that people can say, I don't know what's going on with that articulation thing because they've all signed it. And attached to that articulation agreement is always the course outlines. So at any point in time, we can reference, these are the two courses on the high school or adult school side and on the community college side that we agreed to, right? It's not just this agreement that's free floating that a conversation happened and we signed off on it. It becomes a comprehensive document, which historically hadn't happened. And the principals sign off, which I forgot about, and now that I'm looking at my slide. We go through the process. We're going to talk about CATMA here in a minute for implementation, which is how we manage all this information, because there's a lot of information. Once we get that articulation agreement signed, now how in the world do you do this, right? You have adult school students going through curriculum. Now what happens, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We have a system called CATMA, which is a proprietary system. We pay for it each year, and it helps to manage all this information because we have to know about the students. The students have to have a Southwestern College ID in order to have a transcript to transcript credit to, right? We also need to know what class they're in, if it is an articulated class, their grades in that class, their Southwestern College ID. There's just a lot of FERPA sensitive information that we decided as an organization. A lot of the colleges do this in a different manner. They do not use a proprietary system, but we do, to manage and secure that information. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about CATMA here in a minute. And so CATMA manages an academic year of information, and then it closes. At Southwestern College, you have 2 years to be able to apply for articulated credit, whether you're an adult school student or a high school student. So what we did was if our system closes, you know, it's August, we're not doing any more work, we close it and it's put into the archive, but a student maybe didn't get a Southwestern College ID, or maybe their teacher didn't issue the grade in CATMA, or something happened, we do have a paper process, and it's not a manual process, it's an electronic process where all this can be done outside of CATMA and get all of the information on an electronic form and get it transcripted. So we do always have a backup because CATMA does have its limitations. It is not perfect by any means. But we have a backup process just in case something happens within the CATMA system. Any questions out there, Kevin? Is anybody, any hands raised or?
I'm not seeing anything right now.
Okay. And I do see on the slide that at one point in time, we did have to submit a high school transcript at Southwestern College. We do not need to do that. The CATMA system manages all that for us. So, but I do know that there are some colleges that do still require that. Okay, I did just a little slide here on CATMA, which is the proprietary system that I referenced. So like I said, some colleges use it, some colleges do not. But it is a web-based application. So, you know, you have an administrator, people have accounts, they have permissions. It's a single source system that the college uses, that the adult school administrators and teachers use, that the high school teachers and administrators use, counselors also. We also have access on the Southwestern College side. Our counselors have access to it, our admissions and records, because they're pulling the information out to transcript the credit. Our faculty don't have access to CATMA, but my team does as an administrative team to help support the process as needed. And we have some approvals built in that we need to do on our end. But really, CATMA is used like the bullets show here to really minimize the tasks that students, teachers, and administrators need to do with regards to this. It's very detailed. We're managing like 1,200 students at any point in time, right? And sometimes it's even over 2,000. Can you imagine all of these details in a paper system or in some type of a manual system? just didn't work for us. And at the point in time, we couldn't figure anything else out. It's wonderful because we can pull reports out at any point in time. How many students are getting credit? How many students aren't getting credit? How many students are stuck on the system? How many students don't have their Southwestern College ID yet? How many instructors haven't issued grades yet? How many, all that stuff can be pulled out of the system in reports by any of those users that I mentioned earlier. It also secures our data. And helps to make it accurate. Whenever you're doing anything manually, there's lots of opportunity for errors. And then it does validate. There's an approval system that any record goes through to ensure that when we do approve transcripted credit, we make sure, like for instance, that they do have a B or better, that a C didn't get entered into the system. So just a real centralized system that we use. If anybody has any questions about CATMA, it has its challenges too. No system is perfect, but we're going to stick with it until maybe something better comes along. I have not found another system that will do this. So there's a few homegrowns out there that some of the colleges have built, but at Southwestern, we're still sticking with CATMA. Okay, so this is a link, and Kevin, they have any participants or anybody at the conference has the ability to get access to this presentation, right?
Yeah, as long as materials were uploaded to the system. So if you provided this, then they'll have access to it.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so there is a link. And this is something that we created when we were trying to figure out, CATMA manages it once we have the articulation agreements. But how do we manage it before that? How do we, with all these partners, with all these moving parts, have one centralized place where an organization can raise its hand and say, I'm interested, whether it's a charter school, whether it's an adult school, and remember, it's course by course, site by site. Where can I raise my hand to start this process? Like, how do I do this? So what we did was to create a master articulation spreadsheet. And I'm going to share this with you. Please let me know if it is not showing on your screen. Hold on one second.
You had it there for a quick second.
I did. Okay.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. And we'll go to Sweetwater Adult.
Yes.
Do you want to start this, Anel?
Sure.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, so this has been a great tool, especially for us at the adult schools, because it keeps everything central in one area. We can always go back to this. So with this tool here, what we do with when we're going to introduce a course, for example, we're going to have advanced manufacturing that we're going to start teaching in January 2022. We would want to seek out articulations for those courses. We would upload the instructor's name, the adult school class, the syllabi also for this course, and the course outline. One that is completed at Southwestern College, and then also they look at the course syllabi, the course outline, the instructor that will be looking at this as well. Now, this is also where at our end at the adult schools, we have to look and see what is this course equivalent to at Southwestern College. So we look at the catalog so that we can say, this is what we would like our course to be articulated. Most of the time it's a prerequisite course. We wouldn't jump on to a higher course. Why? Because with the prerequisite course, we know that the students are getting that foundation. For example, medical terminology. For any student that's going to go on to medical administrative or medical clinical, that's a prerequisite. So we want to make sure that they have that prerequisite and that they're not jumping back, that they're having to go back and do a course that they haven't completed before. So again, this is where will we upload this information? And we could always take a look and see what it would articulate with, the instructor's name, and also we would get the feedback from the instructor, has it been articulated or not articulated at this point, to see if there's anything that we need to change as well.
Very good. So this is something that I have a person in my office that monitors constantly. So I'm just going to take you quickly through maybe, let's just take this top one. And at one point in time, oh,
Jennifer,
yes.
there is a question here from Nellie. Maybe you can address as you explain this.
Sure.
It says, how long does the process of approval take? How often is it updated? And who is responsible for updating this site?
Awesome. So really good questions. And I think, Nellie, I'm going to answer your questions as we go through this. And with regards to timing, it really depends. Remember when I talked about sometimes it's just a beautiful match, right? And the faculty say, oh my gosh, that is my class. They review the syllabi, the lesson plans, the course outline, and they're like, yeah, you can have 3 units. It's a perfect match for my introduction to culinary class. That is a very short, sweet project timeline. It's not so short and sweet when my culinary instructor says, but you don't use knives. You need to use knives in order for me to give you credit. And then the adult school has to go back and add knives to the curriculum, right? Get their process, resubmit it. So the time frame varies, Nellie. I would say if everything aligns very quickly, we can have an articulation agreement issued within a couple of weeks. It's taken as long as 6 months. So it definitely varies. But I'm just gonna take you really quickly through anything on this spreadsheet that is in yellow is something that Anel and her instructors would fill out, right? For this baking and pastry skills, they provide the course number at the adult school, the name of the adult school, because remember, this class could be taught at Chula Vista Adult and Montgomery, and I have to have 2 separate agreements because the outline may be the same, but it may not be the same, right? Depending upon how that instructor is teaching that class at Chula Vista versus Montgomery. So she will upload the syllabus. We link it, right? So you can just click on it and we can see it. She also uploads the course outline, links it here. She also adds who the instructor is and links their email. Because at any point in time, the Southwestern College faculty may have a question, I may have a question, somebody from my team may have a question. And to find a Maria, for Southwestern College to find Maria Gonzalez at Chula Vista Adult is not an easy thing always, right? And instructors change and things happen. So having that contact information, and especially if my culinary instructor says, my culinary faculty says, well, I need to talk to them. Like I see their stuff, but I need to talk to them. It's all right here. And this tool is accessible by everyone, right? It's open access for review, okay? They're identifying the, sometimes our office does this, they identify the course, but sometimes the adult school goes ahead and puts this in. We put the course number in, which is linked to our course outline. I'm sorry, this is so small. I'm hoping you guys can follow. I have something blocking my view here. So we add the course outline here. It's linked. Anything that's blue is linked. What program is it in? Because Southwestern College has 85 career education programs, so that helps us. We know how many units are associated with this course. We also know who the lead professor is at Southwestern, linked with an email. So if Maria wants to contact Laura, they both have access to this, right? They can start just working amongst themselves. Often it's facilitated by Anel or myself or my team, but really this becomes a place that, you know, people can just work on stuff. We know who the department chair is because we found at Southwestern College and maybe at Grossmont or Cuyamaca or Mesa, that the chairs were out of the loop. There were instructors working on things, but the chairs weren't in the loop as far as what was happening with articulation. So we added them to this. We have the dean for the school added there, our school name. And then this is where the faculty member goes in and puts yes or no. right? It's all done in this spreadsheet, in this Google sheet. And then we also have renewals. Our articulation agreements are good for 2 years because our curriculum is changing. The adult schools curriculum is changing. We do review annually, but the articulation agreements have to be reissued every 2 years. So we also put a date in there. And then we track when the agreement was issued, and this is just a sample. So, and then we link the fully executed agreement in here, right? So people can see it at any point in time when it's got all the signatures on it, and then any notes that we have with regards to that specific articulation. So I would say, if you guys don't have a system for this, CAPMA does not help with this at all. Take it, use it, make it your own, whatever works for you guys. And this is a work in progress. We're still adding columns and, figuring out the best way to work. I will say that we meet on a regular basis to troubleshoot any of the things, whether it's in this part of the process or in the CAPMA side of the process, at least quarterly. So it is important that once you are working with a partner like Sweetwater Adult or your high schools, that communication is very, very important. And we're all very busy. So it's super easy to be like, I have this huge, I'm building a facility, I'm working on my, my curriculum revamp, there's new standards, and oh yeah, there's that articulation thing over on the side, right? So it is something you have to be very intentional about. So we have found that, setting quarterly meetings just to touch base, and maybe we don't have a lot to talk about, but maybe we have a lot to talk about. And how do we continuously improve this process?
So Jennifer and Anel, there are 2 more questions here from Nellie. So one of the questions is, do students need to request college credit, or is this an automatic process? And then the second question was, is the articulation officer involved in the decision to approve, or is it just only the faculty within the program?
Good questions. So I'll start with your last question about the articulation officer. They do sign up. They are one of the signatures on the articulation agreement. Our articulation office is very focused on 4-year transfer. But once this came up, she's like, I don't need to be a part of the negotiations and the agreement, but I do want to know what's going on. So having her as a signatory on the articulation agreement and having her have access to this satisfied her need. So hopefully that answers that question. Kevin, what was the first one? Oh, do students have to request credit
for the college credit, or if it's automatic?
Right. So what happens is students build a CAPMA account with their either adult school or high school teacher. And they don't have to build a CAPMA account if they don't want articulated credit. It's not like they're all loaded into the system. The student has to go in, create an account, and add their Southwestern College ID, indicating, and in part of that is, I do want articulated credit if I get a B or better, right? So by them creating a CAPMA account and entering their Southwestern College ID, it will become automatic after that. Anel, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, it becomes automatic. And then after that point, they can actually receive a transcript, an official transcript from Southwestern College or any community college when they receive their articulated credit.
Did that answer your question, or was there any more in there?
No, it looks like Nellie says, this is a great system. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Well, like I said, do it. If you can use any part of it, please do. Please, please do. Anel, do you want to talk a little bit about benefits?
Yes, I'll start with the benefits of articulation. So for students that are doing articulation at the adult school, there's no cost to the students or tuition or for the textbooks, right? So it's a win-win situation for a student because they're taking a course at the adult schools, and they're also going to be receiving college credit for it. It's also accelerates the college degree completion through college. During the pandemic, I can give you a couple of cases where we had nursing students from Southwestern College, or students that were doing their general education courses and were pursuing a nursing degree at Southwestern College, but they needed to get their CNA courses out of the way. And there was a prerequisite of the healthcare essentials, 2 courses that we offered at the adult schools. So while they were taking courses at Southwestern College, they were also enrolled with us, being able to receive articulation credit after completing their courses, and also being able to get those courses onto their transcript for Southwestern College. So there's an example there of students that were able to accelerate through their college courses and still go on into their pathway for nursing. It does save students money and time in completing college courses with us. Again, even though we're adult school, we do also emphasize a high rigor as it's implemented with Perkins, the 11 elements of a high quality program. So this is where we do bring in a lot of industry advisory also to make sure that we're also following the high rigor that's implemented with Southwestern College's instructors with the CT courses or any course. And it also minimizes the students to be able to, like, taking a course that's they haven't received college credit for example, medical terminology. We try to make sure that our courses are articulated so that students go on to their pathway, whether it's completing more courses with us or going on to higher education. So we want to make sure that they don't go on and, again, take a course that they have already completed and start from, again, it's a waste of time, right, for them. And we want to make sure that they're able to go on to the workforce or to higher education. And so it also develops collaboration with local community college. One of the things, I think one of the strongest points that I can talk about here is the collaboration that exists. So many students, although they come through the adult schools, are very unaware of what the process is to register to Southwestern College and what is next after the adult schools. So this articulation process really kind of sets the stage for the student too, to be aware, like, you're at an adult school, perhaps you exited ESL courses or received a GED with us, but now we have these CT courses where you can get college credit while you're still with us, and now move on to higher education to go on into more courses in that pathway. And so also high school and college career indicator, and then transition to post-secondary with CAPE and WIOA benchmark points as well. So the benefits of the articulation are incredible for the students. But one of the things too that we found at the adult schools that we also had to educate our instructors too, and being able to give this information to the students once they came in at the beginning of the semester, because there is a process to register to Southwestern College, do the CATIMA process, and for students to also be able to see that, wow, I'm at the adult school and I have this opportunity to get college credit, articulation credit, and move on to Southwestern College. Jennifer, would you like to add anything else?
No, I think that's really good. When we step back from the implementation of it and really think about the benefits to the student and to the organizations, that's what that slide was covering. They are a Southwestern College student after taking this class and have not had to pay any tuition. They've already got transcriptable credit, sometimes up to 6 units, and are ready to continue. And they may be, you're right, Anel, they may be ready for the workforce. It may be a short-term certificate of proficiency that they've earned, but more than likely it's got them on the path to a certificate or degree at Southwestern.
Yes. And
sorry, Anel, go ahead.
Okay, and I wanted to add that we really emphasize for students to enroll to Southwestern College and also receive that articulation credit, because we do find many times that students just want to go out into the workforce. But once they go out into the workforce and they see, wow, if I take more courses, I can still earn more money, right? So we really want to encourage them to get that college credit, the articulation, be able to, even if they go into the workforce, they have that in their transcript. And we never know, maybe a year, 2 years from now, maybe in the future, still more into the future, they might decide that they want to go back to school. So they don't have to go back and retake a course that they took a while back. And so we also offer CT orientations at the beginning of the semester, giving all this information out and saying, these are the days that we're going to register to Southwestern College, and try to make sure that we have everyone registered by a certain date, so that as we're completing our course for the semester, that we're able to give those students that articulation credit. So These are some of the highlights for Southwestern College in our adult schools, is that we have over 20 articulator courses serving more than 400 students a year, and serving approximately 50 incarcerated students a year. And the efforts that have led to exciting opportunities in partnerships. And so there's a lot of outreach events from Southwestern College, where Southwestern College is collaborating very closely with our CT program. As an example, I believe it's medical billing and coding that's on the rise right now with workforce. And so last semester, we bridged some guest speakers from Southwestern College to come in and speak to our adult students about the pathway in medical billing and coding. And that's a course that we offer that's articulated with Southwestern College, and also work-based learning opportunities. So even though we're two local educational agencies, if we're not separate, we work together, we collaborate together, because these students will be making this transition to Southwestern College. So the more that we are involved with Southwestern College, the more that Southwestern College is involved with us, it's a great partnership to work and to be able to transition these students with seamless transitions from one agency to another agency. And also we have industry advisory committees. One of the things that Jennifer talked about, that Nelly asked a question about, was, what is the process like? And so let's say that we do have a delay of a process of 3 or 6 months where we don't have that articulation agreement signed yet. Again, it could have been like, because the example of the knives, right? We want to make sure at our end that we're making everything possible to meet the demand of industry and meet the high rigor for these career technical education courses. And so when we come together, Southwestern College as an example, and the adult schools, we bring in our course outlines, we bring in our syllabi, and look at what we have. Is there something that we need to change because industry is changing? Is it something related to workforce? Is it something that has to do with the theory? Now with CTE, there's a lot of academic emphasis. So we want to make sure too that besides the hands-on practicum or practice, that we're also including the theoretical part, whether it's in culinary, whether it's in medical, whether it's in building and constructions. And also this also helps us to align. Is there something else that we can include? Or is there something else that Southwestern College can support us with for our students at our adult schools too? So one of the biggest things again that I can say is the collaboration and partnership that has came out of these articulations. It's really a win-win situation for the adult schools, for Southwestern College, but having our students in mind first, that we're here for the students and to serve them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I do think that, you know, as part of this process, students become a Southwestern College student. They get a student ID. They're not registered in classes, but that student ID gives them access to all kinds of things at Southwestern College. If they need tutoring for their class at the adult school, because it is articulated, they can come to the college and get it if maybe it's not available. So there's just all kinds of benefits to students. And I do love, you know, this slide specifically, because I think we started our work on articulations and it has just blossomed into so much more. I just think there's such an opportunity.
So
Kevin?
we have a comment and a question. So
Okay.
I think to your previous slide, Nikki was adding, articulation also expands the student's schedule within the same semester when classes are impacted or work or family schedules are a barrier.
Yep.
And
We
then,
should add that.
yeah, absolutely. And Nellie asked the question, is there a limit to the number of classes that students can take towards an associate's or a certificate?
Yes. So our board policy, and I'll have to look it up, Nellie, but I think it's 6 units a year. I think. And really, that's only what's kind of tolerable, because remember, this is for high school and adult school. And remember that we typically articulate 1, maybe 2 courses, because, you know, the adult school has started the process. We're kind of in that sweet spot for articulation. And then they go on to the Southwestern College. So we really don't have students requesting more than that.
Correct. And at our end, we can have students co-enrolled in 2 courses, like let's say medical terminology and medical administrative assistant. However, we would not allow them to go on to medical billing and coding. because we would want them to make sure that they're passing with a B or better, and that also the rigor that we're putting into our CT courses is high in meeting the standards of Southwestern College. So we want them to be successful. Although medical terminology would be a course where 45% of the content is embedded in the state certification. So we want to make sure that they're reaching that 80% in our exams, but also passing our courses.
Kevin, do we have any other questions?
I don't see any more questions. We've got about 5 minutes left if anybody else does have any questions.
And if not,
checking the chat here.
we can give you 5 minutes of your life back. That might be nice, huh? It's been a
These
busy
days,
day.
it's like the best gift we can receive, right?
Right. And I can stop sharing here. Please contact either one of us depending upon what your question or concern is. And if we can't answer it, we will get you where you need to go.
So Jennifer and Anel, thank you so much for sharing with us. What a wonderful, we're getting a lot of thank yous and greats in the comments.
Oh,
so thank you so
good.
much. It's wonderful to see what collaboration can accomplish. So thank you for sharing. Just a reminder to all of the participants that our next session will begin at noon. So please find another session to join and support. Again, thank you, Jennifer and Anel, for your time and for sharing with us.
It's been our pleasure.
Thank you.